Planning and Zoning Commission to order. First item of business will be roll call.
Gordon Harness.
Present.
Carl Evans is absent. Jared Bennett.
Here.
Will Wright.
Here.
Keith Logan.
Here.
We do have a full quorum, and we'll proceed with business. Item 2 is to consider approval of the agenda as presented. There's a motion to approve. I'll make a second. All in favor, signify with a raised hand.
All yes. All yes.
Item 3 is to consider approval of the minutes from our February 26th meeting.
You fix it.
I would note that where I put it, on in the minutes of box that we discussed the council's actions on our recommendations. And on the section that says they were council, that I noted the council was upset with the scooter permit. I think that needed to be clarified that we were upset. They were upset that they ignored the initial condition and simply applied for variance. But simple practical continuum.
They weren't upset with us.
Right.
Council.
Yeah, the council was upset that
Yeah.
with them just going ahead and then wanting us to fix it. Anyone have anything else? Make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion and second, all in favor? Unanimously approved. Item 4 is report of city council's decisions on planning commission recommendations at the last meeting.
City council, planning commission items for city council approval were the Blue Ridge Estates rezoning from E3 to PUD, the preliminary plat for Whispering Pines, I apologize, I back up. It was the Whispering Pines rezoning request from Ag to E3 for Apple Construction was approved 5-0. The preliminary plat for Whispering Pines was approved 5-0. Then we had a ordinance amendment to chapter 154 for the loading and access regulations for the additional driveway in E1, 2, and 3 was approved by council. And those were all the items for planning.
Anyone have any questions? We'll go on to item number 5 is continuance request, and there are none. Item 6 is citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to be heard on matters that are not on our agenda. Anyone wish to be heard? Seeing none, we'll proceed. Item 7 is lot split deed approval. That was
Yes, that was,
revision.
yes. And they had over zoning is RF1. They had enough lot area and frontage requirement and provided a easement for their utilities and was able to achieve another lot.
Is that on the north side of the road there?
It is.
Mhm. Item number 8, public hearing to consider an application for rezoning from PUD to BUD for Windermere Newcastle Development LLC. This is Windermere 8, tract 1 and 2, located in the northwest corner of section 15, township 9 north, range 4 west, wind end meridian, Plain County, Oklahoma. Property address is the southeast corner of the intersection of Northwest 16th Street and North Country Club, Newcastle, Oklahoma. This is R 2024-001. Continued in the past.
Good evening, Kevin Haberg, Senior Planner. As noted, rezoning 2024-001 is for Windermere Newcastle Development LLC as the owner and Blue and Associates as the representative. This PUD to PUD amendment is really an amendment for a specific portion of the rezoning. So as for quick overlay orientation, we have E1 to the north, and then Windermere PUDs additions to the south and east, with agriculture to the west, associated uses with those zoning districts. This falls within the comprehensive 2040 plan. No land use amendment is required. So for a little bit of back history, in 2022, Planning Commission and Council approved an amendment to the Windermere PUD, allowing for tracks 1 and 2, which is in the northwest corner of Windermere, to be amended to RF1 underlying zoning district. Once they came in for a pre-development meeting, kind of working through the preliminary plat, we identified that the eastern egress, which was going to be gained via the racer storage private drive to the east, will pose maintenance and access issues given that it's a private drive. The city wouldn't be able to accept that, not knowing what the conditions of that private drive were and the pavement and how that was constructed. At that time, the applicant was advised to gain access via an independent drive onto Northwest 16th. And that is the basis of the PUD amendment. Joel will be presenting the preliminary plat to discuss further details regarding that. City staff supports and recommends these changes to rezoning 2024-001. The representative for the applicant is present for any questions.
Do anyone have questions for staff on that?
I just need a memory refresher from 2022. That 2022 is when because originally when Windermere first came in, that corner was commercial,
Right.
correct? 2022 is when we changed it to
Residential. Yes, sir.
Okay. Just want to make sure I understood what you were saying.
Absolutely.
Okay,
We drew it up to use that driveway as the second entrance within the plat, right?
Yes.
yeah,
But the city doesn't want it.
But the city approved it in the beginning. I mean, we talked about all this in the platting, that driveway was the second entrance.
right, for the commercial. And then when we rezoned it, but at that time, we didn't do the full plat, we did the preliminary plat.
I think I might have been out for that, but I believe that we did, yes.
No, we did a whole preliminary plat, the original preliminary plat had expired. So they had to come in and all the remaining undeveloped land, they had to do a preliminary plat for that.
And
Which
it showed,
included that,
okay,
and it did show that access.
okay,
And it also stated that access in the PUD. So that's why that's coming forward, because it explicitly stated access was gonna be taken. Yeah, and so that's why we're back to it.
So that doesn't qualify now?
well, the city doesn't want the driveway that's there, that's a private drive, because it didn't have to meet our standards for our street. The city's gonna accept the street.
Based on width and
Yeah. I think from the
materials? or what?
With
I think-
material, yes. Predominantly material.
I mean, I've driven down it, and probably got, material wise, it might make it, but I don't think they're with. But just for easy,
Well,
Design,
not only
I
that,
guess
but then
they've
you gotta
gone back
drive
and
on the wrong
redesigned.
side of the road to hit the keypad and all that. There would just be so much confusion coming in and out of that place.
Keep that at the road?
No, the keypad's further up, but it's not very close, and it's on the wrong side of the street. You gotta drive on the wrong side of the street to get to the keypad if you stay in your car. So there's just a lot of stuff over there that makes more sense to.
It's just another entrance on the 16th.
Yeah.
Within a distance that
Well,
long term.
that we just change that. It has to be.
That driveway separation is specific to intersections, and so that's what we clear up with the re-review of that particular ordinance change.
So the city will assume that road is a city street, widen it or what?
no.
Not for racer storage. That is
They're
not part of the plat.
redoing this and bringing the entrance into the development.
Oh,
area.
okay.
Does that answer the question, Will, for satisfaction, or do you want to comment on it?
No, I'm just clarifying, just to be clear. I mean, more entrances on the road, just we had planned it that way and designed it that way. We worked with them to make sure that was gonna work, and now it doesn't, so we put another entrance on the road. I mean, long term, it's more congestion later, so. I get it, but I prefer less entrances.
Well, yeah. Does anyone have any questions for the developer representative?
Not on this one. I don't know, that's where we're gonna get to that.
Right.
That's
Is there any public comment on this application? Seeing none, accept the motion.
Did you make a motion?
Did you make a motion?
No, I said I
I'll
accept the
I'll make a
motion.
motion.
I'll second.
I have a motion to approve the, make sure I word it right. This is just the PUD, the Windermere Developments, has presented this 25th day of March 2024. And that's seconded. All in favor, signify with a raised hand. Be unanimously approved. Item number 9 is discussion and possible action on the preliminary plat of Windermere Phase 8, Track 1 and 2. Continue.
Good evening, gentlemen. Joel Dixon, interim city engineer. So the preliminary plat, the original preliminary plat for the 218-acre Windermere development was submitted back in 2017. That original plat, preliminary plat expired prior to the completion of all the phases of this development, and a re-preliminary plat for the remaining 50.65 acres, which did include this phase, Windermere 8, was submitted back in 2022. Changes in the layout, as we previously discussed, for the development have necessitated the re-preliminary plat of the proposed 16.808 acres, 16.08, say that clearly, acres that are comprise Windermere 8. There will be 58 single-family lots for this phase of the development. Access to the development will be taken from 2 proposed local streets, Lavender Lane, which will connect onto Northwest 16th Street, and Northwest 15th Terrace, which will connect onto North Country Club Road. Drainage and detention will be designed such that runoff from the proposed development will not exceed pre-development flows. The future Grove Windermere multifamily retiree development, which is located east of Windermere 8 on the other side of the driveway for Windermere storage, will provide off-site detention, which will be built during this phase for both of those developments. So we'll have off-site detention for this particular phase that will be built with this phase. Stormwater will generally be collected in the streets, curb and gutter, enclosed storm sewers system, which will convey it north to the northeast corner of the parcel. It will cross through existing storm sewer infrastructure underneath the driveway to the Windermere storage and convey discharge into that detention pond offsite. The development will connect to public sanitary sewer. It will connect to existing sewer infrastructure that we have located in Meadow Creek, which is north of Northwest 16th Street. An easement has been acquired for that. In accordance with our ordinance, the developer will be required to extend the 12-inch water line located on the south side of Northwest 16th Street. It currently terminates on the west side of Country Club. They will have to continue that line east at 12 inches along and across the length of their frontage on Northwest 16th Street. Parkland requirements have been met with previous phases of the Windermere development, so no additional parkland will be dedicated in Windermere 8. This re-preliminary plat meets city requirements and regulations, and staff recommend approval of this re-preliminary plat as submitted. Yes,
I
sir.
apologize. Can you repeat the sentence right before the last one about the parks or the common area? Did you make comment with?
Yes, so the parkland requirement that's in accordance with section 153.059 has been met in previous phases of the Windermere development. So remember the original Windermere preliminary plat was all, 9 phases if you include the retirement, which hasn't come forward yet. maybe 10, I guess, if you count the duplexes, 11 if you count the storage. So, anyways, amongst all of the various spaces, they have dedicated enough parkland to meet our requirement for this development.
Okay.
So there will be no additional parkland for phase A, or in phase A.
On the.
That's parkland, not common area. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yes, so
Okay.
parkland,
Where
well,
they actually have the park and stuff.
right, so common area can be parkland if it has the amenities that sort of upgrade it from
Okay.
just common area to parkland.
Okay.
On the detention, will there be an off-site easement filed for the drainage onto the other lot off-site? I mean, I think they've got to give us an off-site when you take.
Yeah, so we do have a representative from the developer, and he is affirming that they will submit that with the final. Yes.
Oh, the other question I've got is on the lots in lots 45 on the west that have the water line easements and the gas line easements that are very outside, but is there a way we can provide those lots and the people that gets noted on their deeds somewhere or another?
So the easements are a part of your documentation.
It should be, but I mean, what happens when people buy these houses? They don't go look at all. They look at a deed. And if I'm doing a deed, and I know there's easements like that, I put a note on that, or if I'm doing a title opinion, I'd call it out.
They get a surveyor goes out there and gives, I just went blank, I had the word on my lips, that they get.
Alta surveys?
Yeah, they get something that shows their house, their land, and then every easement and everything else on it. They get a piece of paper that looks like this, except it's their house at closing. Every 100 and.
Well, then that'll take care of it.
Yeah,
The PIN surveys I see so often don't have it.
It's called a mortgage inspection.
Yeah.
They get a mortgage inspection in their closing paper that they have to sign that shows every easement that's there.
Yes, sir.
And if it doesn't, it goes back on the surveyor, not the city. that does their.
Just the practicality of it, I've seen things may be getting better, but in the past, people, the second person buying the lot or the third won't know where those easements are. And in this case, big water lines and all that, and they're far enough into their lot, they'll be doing stuff on top of them.
Well, and that's also something, of course, that the staff reviews whenever somebody comes in for
Come in and ask for
a permit. Yeah, assuming that they're following our ordinance and actually permitting, accessory structures and things of that nature.
Yeah. we should
But our inspectors are also out there trying to make sure that folks aren't doing the wrong thing. So,
All right. Now that answers that question.
yes, sir.
Does anyone have any questions?
I do. This stormwater detention pond offsite.
Uh-huh.
What phase is that on the other side of the road? Is that not the phase where we had, and I know they were preliminary and they're probably gonna have to come back in, but is that not right where we had approved the 55 and older housing and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
So now
that's a block approval for that, but we didn't ever have any.
And what I'm saying is not right, but now there's gonna be a stormwater drainage detention pond where they were wanting to do the 55 and older community. So having it there, just know we're setting ourselves up for having to change whatever we did for that phase, because there's stuff that's not gonna be able to be there now. Right?
Well,
And I can talk to that if you
Okay.
like. So Jason Spencer, Bloom Associates here on behalf of the applicant. So, I mean, we're gonna have to provide detention for the grove portion too. So
Okay.
there's always been a little bit of a plan. I mean, even if you look at the 2022 preliminary plat, I mean, we didn't have on-site detention here. We had it over in that area.
Okay.
And I can't remember, there's almost, it's 16 and a half to 17 acres. It's over there. So, basically that pond and the developer's intent will be that that pond's going to be, sort of an amenity to that community. It's gonna be a wet pond. It'll be nice. And if you look at the groves that he's done in Moore and some other places, he's got the clubhouse backed up to it. It's gonna be a fairly substantial pond too,
Okay.
but, there's still quite a bit of space left that will be, we've done a layout and kind of shown it to him to make sure that we're not taking away, all his, senior living.
So he has a plan for that within
Correct.
his other stuff. That's
Correct. And so, I mean, and that's gonna be, I don't know the exact timing, but I mean, the intent's that that's going to be coming on the heels of this I mean, that's his last piece of Windermere. So he's ready to get going on that. I think he's finishing his grove up in phase 2 of the one in Moore and so the one in Shawnee.
okay.
Block 45, lot 18, and block 46, lot 1, do those meet the minimum square footage?
Yes.
Based on the numbers that are on here, I guess the property line goes out past what's designated here.
So, I mean, they've got, even with the site triangles that are in those, they meet or exceed 7,200 square feet.
Even by the numbers that are on there.
Yes. We went back in and double checked these again last week, just checking all of them, but they all exceed it.
Does the property extend further than that 42.5 width number, or is the property shut off?
Well, I mean, so you've got, from the lot line between lot 17 and 18, as you go from west to east, you got 42.5 feet. Then you come at an angle.
Mhm. Not designated how long that is.
But you've got that entire piece that's in there.
Oh, okay, I didn't see that.
It's not an easy one to add up. I mean,
Yeah.
we have to draw it in because not everything's parallel and perpendicular. I think they are on lot 18, but not on lot 1 because the difference in section lines variance. But we check them all.
Okay. We've just done a lot of variance fixes because of that. Just want to make sure all the lots meet.
And I'm happy to provide our CAFL staff or whatever you guys want.
He reviewed it,
So.
all the law firms.
It's all good.
Okay.
Just asking.
Yes, sir.
My only other question is, and it's maybe for the final, I don't know, but in the PUD, we were what the HOA do. My concern is who's gonna maintain the grass and things like that in between the house and the private road. I know that technically it's whoever owns the Windermere storage. It's their responsibility. Are we gonna put something in there where it specifically states that HOA doesn't have to have that as a responsibility? It's not their responsibility. I don't know how that works as far as like say that they need to have in their PUD, but just didn't want it to ever come back on, them and the HOA think that it's their responsibility, because sometimes, depending on how properties are, the backside is the HOA's. But this one, it's gonna be the storage. It's the storage.
Yeah, I mean, and typically when they're setting up and adding these tracks to the HOA, I mean, it's specific to the legal descriptions. I mean, now it doesn't mean that, I guess, 30 years from now, somebody gets one over on somebody and gets.
Well, right now, when everybody knows who owns
Yeah.
all these and we all working together, it's one thing, but like you said, 20 years down the road.
But, I mean, they'll have their backyard fence there. I mean, I think it's gonna, I mean, short of somebody trying to get one over on somebody, it'll be the storage just to maintain their panhandle there.
This is backtracking on you just a little bit, but just looking at this, and looking at that area that you were just talking about, Is that additional drainage that runs across the back into the, under the,
Yeah, we're gonna have a
Box
flume
is-
back there. We want something, to pick that up. So if we need to get an easement, I mean, we can do that.
I guess that's what I was thinking. When I was looking before, I was just thinking of the major flumes or the major
Yeah.
drainage pipe, but it looks like
There's,
you'll have to have an easement. for
because
that.
there's a little bit of drainage that comes off of the, between the storage and the oil well over there. And so we've got to pick that up in a flume. And that's been planned on, bringing that around, but it generally drains to those existing culverts that are up there to the
Yeah,
north.
so just that'll be outside the track.
That'll be
we'll have to
outside the
have an
track,
easement
so,
For that too.
We didn't just want to leave that as a ditch though, because, I mean, it's flat. It needs to be improved.
Yeah, well, and it'd be a lot better,
Mhm.
a lot less maintenance. I don't have anything else. Anybody else have anything? Is there any public comment on this application? Hearing none. I'll make that motion that we recommend approval of the preliminary plat of Windermere 8, tracks 1 and 2, as submitted on the 5th day of March 2024.
I'll second.
Motion second, all in favor, signify by raising hand. Be unanimously approved. Item number 10 is a public hearing to consider application for rezoning from A agriculture to E1 suburban estate residential for Lance Francis, and located in the southeast quarter of section 25, township 9 north, range 4 west of the Indian Meridian, McLean County, Oklahoma. Property address is 2003 Southeast 24th Street, Newcastle, Oklahoma. This is R 2024-002.
May I introduce our new planner before she presents her first
Oh,
time?
please do.
This is Julie again. She, is our new senior planner with us. She has over about 20 years of experience in planning,
Oh, wow.
and she has come to join us. So I just wanted to introduce her before she made her first presentation.
Well, thank you, Jeff.
Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. I'm Julia Yun with the Newcastle Planning Department, and glad to be a part of Newcastle family here. Thank you.
Thank you.
This is a rezoning case located at 2003 Southeast 24th Street, and this is approximately 2-acre lot. And currently the zoning is A, which is a general agricultural district. And the applicant requested to rezone to E1, suburban estate residential district, to meet the minimum lot area requirements. So I've done a little research on this, and I'm not, well, this is the real estate transaction occurred probably without the warranty deed approval in the past, and rezoning to E1 will actually bring it to conformity here per our chapter 153.007. And the lot requirement is 80,000 square feet, but this is 2 acres, so it's actually over 87,000 square feet, so it will meet that requirement. And there is an existing residence there, and Mr. Francis is here tonight with us, and he resides there, and hopefully to renovate the existing structure in near future. So the staff supports and recommends approval of case number R 2024-002. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I did have just one question on it appears there's an outbuilding.
Yes, there's a
property.
few structures on the lot. Right now.
Correct. Single family home and, just an existing farm.
Okay. Do we need to address the side yard setback on that barn? From the drawing, it looks hardly too close. And I just wondered if, while we're doing this, if we needed to address that.
Are you gonna be doing anything on that barn?
Barn will come down and be moved.
Would you mind
inward.
coming to the
Yeah,
podium and state your name and?
Hey, how's it going? Lance Francis, thank you for the opportunity to come and be part of the meeting here. So we purchased the house, about 4 years ago, and it was built in 1977, and it's getting close to, needing some upgrades and, some maintenance. And so the barn sits a little not square to the street.
Right.
And, as you can imagine, that drives my wife crazy. So, it's very much aged and everything, and I think, pending approvals of getting all this, to a point where we're residential and compliant as, to E1, then we want to move to, demolition of the barn and.
Okay, so it's going
Yeah,
away.
it's
anyway.
coming down anyway, and then it would be, rebuilt, moved further inward of the lot.
Okay, then I don't think we need to worry about addressing that and making that an exception for that boundary or that setback. I have no questions on this. Does anybody have any questions on this? I think this is an administrative matter that we need to approve, and these happen from time to time, and I make a motion that we recommend approval of this rezoning from agriculture to E1.
I'll second.
I have a motion second. All in favor, signify by raising hand. Be unanimously approved. And we'll refer this to city council at the next meeting.
Thank
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Julie. Item 11 is a public hearing to consider an application for rezoning from PUD, Plan Unit Development, number 842 to PUD, Plan Unit Development for Leon Lacey, Redbud RV Park, located in the southeast quarter of Section 30, Township 9 North, Range 4 West of the Indian Meridian, McLean County, Oklahoma. Property address is 3323 Southwest 24th Street, Newcastle, Oklahoma. This is R 2024-003.
Good evening, Kevin Hagerberg, Senior Planner. As stated, our 2024-003 is a rezoning from PUD to PUD, more or less an amendment similar to item 8. A little back, this is 19.6 acres. First of all, surrounding zoning is all ag to the north, the east, and the correction to the north and west, E1 to the east, and Blanchard agricultural and commercial to the south. Similar uses with those zoning districts as well. This is in compliance with or similar to the 2040 comprehensive plan. No land use amendment is required. This PUD was originally approved in July of 2019. It was a base zoning, two base zonings, two tracks to the southeast corner. In your staff report, or if you look on the map, southeast of the creek is commercial. Generally west of the creek is E1 with the permitted use of an RV park. Why we're coming here tonight is late in 2023, mid-2023, the applicant approached the city for a building permit to build a single-family dwelling unit on the premises here. Looking at the PUD, knowing that the base zoning district is E1, there was not a permitted use for a single-family dwelling unit on the property. It caused a little bit of confusion, and then the master development plan that was originally submitted, although there was some submittal issues with that as well, did not reflect a location on the master development plan for a single-family dwelling unit. This kind of led into a little bit of some more research within the PUD, as well as the city requirements, specifically to the city requirements in 154.075 E2. It is a requirement that all existing and proposed structures are listed on a master development plan, which conflicts with the submitted PUD, the original PUD, because there is a statement in there requiring that any deviations from the PUD or master development plan require processing through planning commission and city council. Again, just kind of minor errors that added up to an issue that precluded the applicant from building his single-family dwelling unit. With the changes in this PUD, it calls out specifically a live-in residence on the property that will allow him to build a single-family dwelling unit there on the property. His septic will be gained from existing sanitary sewer servicing the park, and all other aspects of this remain the same given the access, water supply. The applicant and his representative are present. City staff supports and recommends approval of R 2024-003.
On the existing PUD, is it E3 or E1?
E1.
E3.
E3, I apologize.
Okay, good. I thought it was, but okay. Just for some clarification along with that, I would note that I recall this, and as a PUD was adopted and approved under ordinance, the actual master development plan or development plan that we considered at the time was not attached to it apparently, because there was one then. There was also discussion of putting a house on it, but there was no designation of it. And it's my recollection that part of the reason for the specific provision that we'd have to go back through the notice and full hearing procedure was because of the opposition to bring either whether to be a house or whether to be additional RV storage or RV parking to the west of what we were addressing at the time. But we're here, and it appears to me that we've got an application that accomplishes what's wanted to be done. And here we are. So let's let the applicants talk to us.
Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, my name is Joe Colby here on behalf of Mr. Lacey and his wife. I stand confused on why a residential structure is not permitted within this PUD. The E3 district specifically permits residential structures. This PUD was done 5 years ago, and the crux of the PUD was the underlying zoning of E3 would control all the uses on it with the additional use of an RV park. That's how it came out, that's how it went down, that's how it was voted on. To tell Mr. Lacey that he can't have a residence on this piece of property, I just can't understand where that's coming from, because the E3 district specifically states single family dwelling. This all started, I thought, because they got the wrong map was attached to the PUD document that was in the city clerk's office, which left a 5-acre tract that Mr. Lacey had pulled out of his property to sell, and kept the remaining 19 acres as a part of the PUD and as part of the master development plan. I've been involved in Newcastle government for quite a while as far as planning and zoning, and I have never seen a master development plan that stipulates every structure and where they're going to go and all that. Usually, all the ones that I've seen, they show what areas are going to be zoned what, or what districts are going to be controlling those areas. But as far as showing where the structure is going, where the parking is going, yeah, I can see where they put the landscaping, 15 foot around all the perimeter and everything. Access points, that's usually put on the master development plan. But as far as showing all of the structure on a master development plan, when people come in to get rezoning, usually they're not sure and don't have a overall plan of how they're gonna develop each and every facet of that PUD. To require them to go back now, since Mr. Lacy was required to file this application in order to get a building permit, now he's being asked to show every structure that's gonna go on this piece of property. And if he doesn't do that, and he wants to put another structure here or another structure there, he's gonna go through this whole routine all over again, just time after time after time, kind of like Groundhog Day. And that is not what the PUD is set up to do. We submitted a document at staff's request on what the site looks like now, and that's what this is, an aerial of today. I don't know how recent this aerial was, but it's pretty recent. If we're going to be locked in to this and this only, then Mr. Lacy would not be able to come in here and add additional RV spaces here or additional ones over here or anywhere else on the site. He wouldn't be able to do that, would he?
No, we would not. And as it's stated in 154.075.
So how do we get there from him not having to come back every time he wants to add additional spaces? How do we do that?
Well, as I discussed with Mr. Lacy
Pardon me?
as I discussed with Mr. Lacy several times and over the course of this last year in meetings and meetings with our city manager, that the PUD requires a master development plan, specific citing of planned buildings, parking, driveways, landscaping, open space, utility easements, setbacks, and other specific information about the project. A detailed landscaping plan, any other pertinent information necessary for review. I also, and Mr. Lacy, please come up to the podium if you would like to, and you can tell about the meetings that we had. It said if you would like to, anything that your heart desires that you want to have in this development, show it on your master development plan, and your PUD narrative must be consistent with that.
And it's shown on there by every structure that's gonna go on that piece of property.
That he would need to put that in his PUD.
So we're doing site-specific PUDs now.
I'm following the regulation.
No, I'm asking, are we doing site-specific PUD?
I'm following what it says in 154.2B.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
I would go back and add to your comments, Joe, because I would, as I've gone over this, I remember it very well. And at the time, there was quite a bit of comment about where we were placing the RVs on this tract of land. There was discussion at the time that he might build a house on the west or might build more RV parking. Because of the comments of neighbors and other citizens, that's where we put in that any changes, such as moving more RV storage, which is a permitted use, or RV parking, RV parking.
Okay.
To the west would require another hearing with notice to those people who were objecting to what we were allowing. And it was a specific extra requirement on him for that sort of a change.
But
he put on his plan, which there's one floating around somewhere, that showed what he's basically done now.
Okay.
And that's what we approved. And what we said is if you're gonna change anything, we gotta go through this again because of the amount of opposition.
Okay. I didn't have time to go through all that I could try to recall, but you know, the Brush Creek Steakhouse, Tom Gillen Gold Steakhouse over on Southwest 16th Street. This was a master development plan turned in for that when it was rezoned. Just a big block showing what district that's gonna be, controlling each one of those nodules in that piece of property. That's the way most of the master development plans I know of have been done. They show, if you pull Windermere, it will show cells of what zoning district's gonna control, but not where all the buildings are gonna go. Not where all this hot parking and driveways and stuff like that's gonna go. It's in the narrative of the PUD document itself. Not in locking someone into a master site plan showing every structure that's gotta go, cause I'm telling you, when
But
they,
before they can proceed, Windermere has to come in and do a preliminary plat, or possibly a sketch plat, which we try to get at the front, or we ask for, we don't get it. But a preliminary plat, which we normally get at the time they're doing their PUD,
Okay.
and then they do a final plat. So they are specifying where the building's gonna be
okay,
before they get the bill.
I would dare say that the mini storage facility at Windermere didn't have any of those buildings shown on the master development plan. It showed there's gonna be mini storage, but it didn't show where the structures are gonna go. Ronnie Mason's down at
Actually-
16th and,
Actually, Windermere did show that they ran east and west, because we made them put brick on the west, because you could see it from council.
that was a part of the PUD narrative though. Not showing the individual structures on the individual site. If Mr. Lacy is gonna be made to have to show every piece of paving, structures, pad site for all these RVs, then can he take and show the whole thing as RV tracks and do it in phases? And will that satisfy the master development plan? Because I don't want to have to keep coming back to this and doing it over and over again.
I agree.
I don't think you all want to come back over and over and over again.
That's why we asked him, are you gonna plan on adding any more RV pad sites? Are you planning on doing any cabins? Are you gonna plan on?
If-
And Mr. Lacy could definitely come up to the podium and speak to those conversations
And-
that he and I
and
had.
That's fine.
So he
I'm
said, I
fine.
just want to have a single family house for a site manager. He doesn't plan on expanding anymore and up to 3 accessory buildings.
Well, and
But if he changes his mind or he sells it to somebody else or whatever, then he should be able to do now and show additional pad sites that's proposed. And if he does that, then will that fulfill the master development plan that you're asking for?
We've let phase development occur in the past, so if he'll come in and show us where he's gonna put pads and.
All he can show is proposed though, Mr. Chairman. I mean, you're asking him to lock something down. If he moves it 25 feet one way or the other, and the city goes out there and says, wait a minute, this isn't exactly where it shows scale wise on your master development plan. You need to go back and do this all over again and change your master development plan by 25 feet.
Well, it does talk about sitting and planned buildings and driveways and parking, but you can make that specific where your master development plan and your PUD narrative have to be consistent. So when you have that consistency in that PUD narrative and
And
with
they
your,
were consistent.
they were not consistent.
Yes, they are.
They were
Tell
not.
me that you can't put a house in E3
He has
and you
the
put a
RV
residence in
park.
E3.
He has an RV park, and that's what the master development plan cited. It didn't cite any single family homes.
The master development plan that you're looking at, that's in the one that Camille's office, that master development plan was not the one that was approved. Because they took out that 5-acre tract. The legal description in the ordinance doesn't agree with the master development plan that's in the city clerk's office.
Well, and that's one of the things I got to as I look at this. What we've got now fixes it. And I would
It
certainly
doesn't
say,
fix,
let's do it. Now, does it say that he can do whatever he wants there forever? No. Because we made a special condition on this one because of the opposition that we overruled and said, if you're gonna move these RV parking spaces to the west, we're gonna have to have a hearing on it. And we're gonna give the neighbors notice. If you're gonna move them too close to the fence, no, we're gonna, same program. That's why that is in there. Because this was a
and
special
all of that has
circumstance.
been done without any problem whatsoever.
Well, we approved it as it was done and how it was laid out, and
Okay.
everybody's happy now. If he wants more spaces and he knows where he wants them right now, let's put them in it while we're talking. If we're just saying he might wanna do something in the future, all he's gotta do is come back and do this again.
Okay, do we have to show where his residence gonna go specifically, putting foot dimensions and everything? In case he changes the footprint of that house and it moves it 5 or 10 feet? I don't wanna lock him into
But
a
it's-
specific, can
We
we
just-
not put a block up in there. It's
You
gonna
could
go
put
in.
it, yes, and I think that's what was accomplished with that, with the master development plan that you submitted. It shows where that house footprint is going to be. It meets the E3, it meets the setbacks because it's far enough, away from the west and north and south.
But if when he starts digging the footings for that house and he hits rock or something and he has to move that house another 100 feet of direction or so,
As long as it is, consistent with the E3 development regulations, the underlying development regulations, as long as it meets the setbacks there. So that shouldn't create an issue at all.
Leon, I'm gonna have to bow to you, sir.
Well, listen, I hear what everybody's saying, and I really don't, if I understand,
Leon, just come up to the podium and state your name.
if I understand it correctly, I don't have a problem with it, okay? Leon,
Are these mics on?
State your name.
They're not on.
My name's Leon.
They're not?
I'm sorry.
Okay, you're gonna have to speak up louder, because I can't even hear you, so go ahead.
My name's Leon Lacy. If what I'm understanding is we take the existing, master development plan that we have, which basically doesn't show anything other than the fact that it shows the division line between the commercial and the, E3.
Right.
So we would take, our current, position of all the items on the park, which will be shown exactly as they are right now, okay? And then in addition to that, we would show where we would anticipate putting any future, RV park spaces or residence or whatever, okay? We would show that in black and white, okay? Is that correct?
If you chose to do that. From my understanding, when we talked, you said, we don't want to expand the RV park. You did not, and I said, if you do, not that you have to do it, but if you do want to do it or have the ability to do it, this is your opportunity
Yeah,
to
yeah,
make that master development plan your dream.
yeah,
If you want to come in and show more RV parks, then you have to also show that in your PUD narrative. Your narrative, the language in your narrative, and that master development plan needs to be consistent. If you decide, I'm not gonna develop any more RV spaces, then you don't have to do it. Like Gordon said, it can be phased development.
Phase development.
So the narrative saying that it's going to be used for an RV park won't satisfy. Are you saying that he's gotta
That's
say for
correct,
every?
because it doesn't show how many spaces. And as Gordon stated, there was quite
So
a
you're
bit of
gonna-
opposition.
You're gonna lock him into a maximum number of spaces in that RV park?
Oh, I'm sure that would be something that would be discussed, yeah.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
because you have a
pretty easy,
maximum number
it's
of
pretty easy
houses and E3s,
to say we're gonna lock it in because he's gonna show where he wants them.
yeah.
Once you show where they're
Well,
going,
No, I'm
Yeah.
saying if he thinks he's going to expand it,
then make
we
it
put
block.
all those spaces in there now.
Right.
But he can only have a max of whatever shows on that master development plan.
Whatever fits,
Whatever what?
fits.
Okay.
I mean,
If you
if
decide,
he wants to show, he's got a pond there, and let's say he goes between the pond and the west fence and says RV park,
Yeah, and I don't wanna
That
get
won't-
into designing it right now, but he's
That
got
won't-
like
well-
42 spaces in there now, I think. How many you got? How many spaces?
41.
41 or 2? Okay.
but I mean,
So
if-
he's got,
It's 41.
I think that's what I counted when I looked at it. So if he wants the ability to go up to like 50 or 60 RV spots, and we can draw those in there, given a, like you said about the house, a area that it's going to go into, not necessarily like locking it down to 100 feet by 50 feet or something like that.
yes, and it would also have to be changed in the PUD narrative as well as the master development plan.
Okay,
Like
all
I
right,
said, they
I
have to
understand.
be consistent.
Now, one more question. Why is there an arbitrary figure of 3, maximum of 3 accessory buildings?
That was what they put in, that's what, Mr. Lacy
I'd like to take
submitted.
that out of there. There's no need to lock him into just 3 accessory buildings.
Well,
Why would you do that?
we would do that because that is under this request, how many accessory buildings he can have for one single family
Well,
dwelling.
we'll take that out of there. I mean, he can have any number of accessory buildings under the E3
Well,
district.
that to me is something that, planning staff would review, and then we would make a suggestion on a revision, because what I don't want to happen is him to come in and put, 10 accessory buildings and start renting those out. I would wanna know, okay,
Rent
so
them out for
how,
what?
for whatever use. I mean, how many, for what are they used for?
He couldn't do that.
That's what I'm saying. That's why we have that 3 number. That's what he came up with, not planning staff.
Yeah, I remember when we discussed the planning of the buildings, and it was brought up to include a building. And I said, well, I don't know if one would be sufficient. My lovely wife back here is a true artist, and I'd like for her to have a studio space. I'd like to have, a shop space. And, but we ended up with 3, I think, as a compromise, I think.
I remember mention of a clubhouse and a pool and all of those kind of amenities for those that were staying.
I don't know if he,
The terminology there is, whatever it is, the building is there, we use for office space, restrooms, public restrooms, laundry, storm shelter, that's that building.
And that exists, that's this white
Yes,
roof
sir, it's
building.
there. Yes, sir.
There's also gonna be a maximum of sewer that could be supported. I mean,
Well, I know what
lateral
Joe
field.
said earlier on that sewer thing. That's not true. I went in earlier, last year, got a permit to, add a building, over on that west side. Okay, and I wanted a restroom in it. So what I did was I spent the money and I got a system put in,
road system.
aerobic system, knowing that I want my house over there. So that one aerobic system would take care of a barn bathroom in my house.
Sure.
Now, the water we'll take from existing water lines, everything from the city.
But I'm saying the RV park itself has its own sewer
Which has an
system.
open air,
Absolutely,
open air lagoon,
absolutely,
approved by DEQ.
yeah, absolutely. Mhm.
Okay, now the question is, as we've got it presented to us now, your existing layout for the RVs, the RV parking places exist, and there's a E3 residential location in the western segment, and up at the top of the RV parking. Now, do you want to modify this and bring in a provision where you might put additional proposed RV storage?
Well,
Or
Mr.
do you
Chair,
want to go ahead and work with this? And if you ever decide to do that, have to come back through, whichever.
well, if we're talking about the postponement here of another month, I may have to work with staff, to get the wording correct, again.
Yeah.
But if I could go ahead at this time, and show some spaces, and listen, I'm talking about maybe 6, that'd be the end of it. But I'd like to do that. And I understand what Joe's saying about the specificness of the residents, and trust me, on top of that hill out there, that's nothing but hard clay. So I don't know exactly, I know where I'd like to put that in.
Well, and it's within the
I
designated area is big enough that I would guess that you can move around on it some.
think
and still be.
what Janae said, if I'm understanding it correctly, if I move it, it's okay as long as it meets the specifications of G3 setbacks.
Yeah, in this general area.
Yes.
I'm not talking about.
Anywhere in the
your-
world, yeah,
yeah.
just in that general
In
area.
this general area.
Yeah, as long as it meets the specs.
Mhm.
See, I don't have a problem with that.
But if you wanted to add any additional parking spaces for RVs or additional
Mhm.
RV spaces,
Mhm.
you're gonna have to postpone and go take this
Well,
master development plan back
Ms.
and then go
Greenlee,
ahead and
yeah,
and
We've been
amend
doing
it
for a year now.
how you want it.
yeah, we've
Which,
been
I mean,
at
you could
this a long
postpone
time.
it, you could postpone it till next month and then
Well,
amend your site plan and
My
come
only
back.
other,
'Cause you have
my
to
own,
redo the language in your
Yeah,
PUD as
yes.
well.
my only other question would be this. if I go in and I make the changes to the master development plan, like we're talking about, okay, is what I'm going to do come back to this board again with that
Next
information?
month. Yes.
And you'll vote on that? If it passes, goes to city council?
Goes to the council.
Let's postpone this for a month and do it.
Okay, now, as I'm saying that, the purpose of the provision in this was to give notice to the general public.
Yes, absolutely.
And we haven't heard from the general public now.
Yes,
There may be a lot of opposition to this.
yeah,
It may affect how we vote.
yes,
They'll have the right to come back next month and look at what we're proposing,
absolutely.
and they might influence it.
Yeah.
But other than that, as you said, that's what'll happen. We'll continue this a month.
Well, I think by adding my residence in there, Mr. Chairman, we're causing a whole lot less density on the property. Because I'm gonna eat up about 2.5 acres back there, okay? It's not going to ever have anything to do with RV storage, okay? And so I'm reducing the amount of density by a considerable amount, I think, by adding that residence in there.
And I think that's what the neighbors were concerned about.
Now, I want to
in the
mention
past.
one more thing, Mr. Chairman. I want to make you dip back in your memory banks, and I know you can do it. The first time I rolled in this door, we rolled in here with an RMH2. And we sat here and we discussed that, and what I wanted to do, I wanted to build some houses on the west side and what have you. And as a consequence of that, we postponed it, we went back, we did a PUD, this man's help. And we changed it from an RMH2 to the E3 to allow us to build those houses. And now we can't do it. But that's all I'm gonna say about it, okay?
Well, I can reach back to that.
Yeah,
The mobile home development was
Would
not
not work.
going to be appropriate.
no, it wouldn't work for that. It would
This
work
was-
for the
We
RV
went
park.
for the underlying E3 and a special use permit for,
Additional use. Is additional use for an RV park.
well, call it additional, or you can call it special use.
It's,
Our ordinances talk about special uses, so.
Mhm.
Anyway, we did that. And you had a plan which showed a layout similar to this
Yeah, similar.
that we approved.
Mhm.
The issue to the west, you might want to build a house over there, you might not.
Mhm.
What you wanted, you might put
Exactly.
RV back over there.
Exactly.
Because people were concerned about the RVs being there.
Yes.
But rather than address that,
Mhm.
it was, at the time, to proceed, we said, okay, we'll prove it as it is right
As it
here.
is on the plan.
And if you want to do any more, you gotta come back and we've
Okay.
got to give everybody
See, it
notice.
went,
And that's where we are today, is
Okay.
you've got to come back and tell us, or tell everybody that
Yeah.
you're gonna change this.
yeah,
I
Well, I don't want
think
anybody to
what you're
get-
proposing right now
yeah,
is a plus for what their concerns were.
yeah.
And I, putting a house over there, to me, is not going to be a problem. I think
No.
it'll help the development.
No.
If you put E3 houses on 5/8 acre, several of them there, that might be a different deal.
Yeah.
And we might get different comments.
Yeah, I have no intention of doing that.
Let me call for public comment,
Yes.
and
I've got one question. I'm
Yes.
Emily Lacy. Did I hear you say that landscaping has to be approved?
It is part of your PUD. If you'd like to approach the commission, you need to come to the podium.
My knees aren't good.
Oh, okay, okay,
Okay.
okay, I understand that.
She's got measles.
I think what she's
Okay.
asking is if we have to
If-
show all of the exact landscaping.
So that was part of the original PUD, as you know, because some of the neighbors to the north
Mhm.
and to the west, you have a tree line in the west, but it specifically states, and Mr. Lacy and I've visited about this as well, is that you are supposed to provide a site-proof screening on the north side
Mhm.
if that tree cover is not sufficient
Sufficient.
enough to
That's
prevent any light spillover.
That's right.
Which, that
been.
being separate matter from what we're discussing today, but I'm happy to discuss that, if asked so, because we have received a couple complaints and we have, on that site proof fencing that runs on that north side. Some of your shade cloth is coming down. It doesn't provide the screening that's required in the PUD. So landscaping, to your question, is mentioned in the PUD as well. There was sufficient landscaping with the natural vegetation there that they didn't make you do additional landscaping. You
Yes.
didn't scrape the land and
Exactly.
so you have that.
Exactly.
There is an issue though on the north side, but you and I we can discuss that.
Yeah,
another time.
Janae, we started that rebuilding of that fence due to the my neighbor to the north's concern about light coming through there. We started rebuilding that fence with pipe and metal fencing, 8 feet tall. And I think we all know COVID came and you couldn't get anything. So it's been a jungle. Anyway, we fully intend to continue that type of structure, which would create what I would call a permanent structure versus that silt fence stuff that's there now. We started a couple of days ago going in and rehanging all that stuff. It's just a nightmare to try to keep up with.
Sure.
But and then by the time as we go up that hill, it becomes more blocked than from the neighbors. But it's our intention to do the entire north side with that metal fencing. Okay, I know it's not anything to do with what we're talking about here today, but that's
It
what
will
we're
be,
doing.
because it'll be, it's part of the.
That's what we're
It
doing.
does say site-proof screening fence shall be at least 8 feet in height and extended along the entire north boundary.
That's actually what I was going to address. I know we haven't got to the public yet.
Yeah,
Okay,
and then-
I'll call for you. in
Yeah,
just a
you
minute.
called for me.
Like, well, ma'am, I'm sorry, I sent you back.
No, you're
Everybody walking around. Public comment, please.
My name is Dawn Lemmy, and I represent Darling Rosebrook, who is the neighbor to the north. I also spoke the last time that this came up with the RV park, went to the city council, and we felt good about the specifics that were put in place. But my question is, who follows up on that? Who follows up that those specifics that some of it was fencing off that creek? There was definitely, I never knew about the silt stuff because I don't know that's what the city council intended with the 8-foot fence. But my question being, here we are back again, and I hear you guys have been going at this for a while, and I don't feel like anything, or not anything, most of the things that were promised to the city council have not been done. So
it's planning department is code enforcement.
and does somebody go out there
Yes,
and,
we actually had one, Mr. Hagerberg, who was out there last week and took several pictures. We looked at them today together. It's not compliant. So what he'll receive is a 10-day, you're in violation of your PUD. You need to come compliant, and then you have so much time to fix that. He starts to remediate that, fix that fallen. Now, there's been discussion on the material.
exactly.
And when I read this, it says site-proof screening fence shall be 8 feet in height. So he has to have a fence
Yes.
there that's 8 feet in height and that prevents any light spillover.
And
I
it
understand
wasn't about so much light as it was about
screening.
RVs
Mhm.
looking over into a private resident land. You know, this isn't like it's commercial up here where the next door neighbor's commercial. This is a private resident.
So again, I understand your concern, but we will deal with that with our code enforcement. And like I said, we've already.
How do we follow up with that? Because
You
I feel very, what's the word for it? Disappointed and let down that it's taken how many years since it was approved?
Since 2015.
Thank you, because I wrote down 17. That, you know, it's great. We haven't had any trouble with them. We haven't had, I talked to Kathy, there's not been noise or anything like that, but we know there were plans for more RVs and a dog park and this and that. But we asked for some things, the city council approved it, and I really feel like it needs to be followed up on. So if that's your deal, I'll follow up.
Yeah, you can call Kathy and she can get you directly to me.
That works for me.
You can also talk to Kevin Hagerberg.
So we're going to continue this another month and then it'll go to the city council.
That's if they want to
If,
deviate from
if
what
that
they-
everything,
Yeah, if they want to change what they've submitted and decided that they've changed their mind, yes, they're gonna have to, continue it.
and where do we see the updated PUD before the meeting? Can we get
You
access
can
to that?
call Kathy.
Call Kathy.
And we can,
I got you, Kathy.
call Kathy, friend.
I'll bug
You can
Kathy.
call Kathy.
Okay, I'll bug Kathy, but I just wanted to make sure
We
that-
we can give you that. It's public information since it's been submitted and,
Perfect.
noticed in the local newspaper.
Okay, all right, thank you very much.
Is there any other public comment? Is there being none? Question is, do
Anything
you
else from
wanna,
me, Mr. Chairman?
do you wanna go with what you got, or do you wanna fix it?
Listen, I would, based on our conversations that we've had here tonight, I'd like to fix it.
As, upon your request, we will continue this matter to our next regularly scheduled meeting.
Thank you, sir.
Make a motion, make a motion to continue this to our next regularly scheduled meeting. Have a second, all in favor? This will be continued to our next regularly scheduled meeting. Thank you. Item number 12, a public hearing to consider an application for rezoning from RF1 Single Family Residential and Agriculture to RF1 Single Family Residential for Tammy Lynn Patella, located in the northwest quarter of Section 18, Township 9 North, Range 4 west of the Indian Meridian, McLean County, Oklahoma. Property address is 3846 Northwest 16th, Newcastle, Oklahoma. This is R 2024-004. Oh, goodness. Sorry.
Hello, Julia Yun, student planner. Hopefully I'm not as shaky as I was earlier. This is another rezoning case, and this is slightly less than 5 acres, 4.45 acres. And this lot has two zonings, and one of them was RF1 single family, and the south half approximately is under A, agricultural, and the applicant is asking to rezone to RF1 single family. This was since the mid-90s. What I have researched, and we had some historical data here at the office, old maps that we kept over the years. They seem to be owned by one owner, just different size of lot, and they were sold over the years. And this was probably another real estate transaction that happened without the proper lot split, and happens to be under two zoning designations. So we would like to ask to rezone to RF1, and Mr. T. Tyler is at the here with us to answer any questions for the applicant, and the staff supports and recommends approval of case number R 2024-004.
What's the width of the leg of the, on the, it's a flag lot, and on the flag, what's the width of that, or for the road frontage?
When I scaled it, it's approximately about 53 feet. Yeah.
That's the only question I've got. That's wide enough to give us our road frontage.
Right.
Anybody have any questions for staff on this? Is there any public comment? Yes.
My name is Marcus Werner. I reside at 3830 Northwest 16th Street. I don't believe that that's actually 53 feet of frontage. I believe it's less than 20, but I'm not a surveyor, so I didn't say that. Some things about this lot that I think are should be noted. This is a recent real estate transaction, and to my knowledge, the buyer should have had constructive notice to understand the zoning. It's currently zoned, and it's blending with the rest of the different areas that surrounds it. There is a detention pond that takes up a big majority of the lot, and that actually neighbors my property by feet. So any development or erecting of a building that has the potential to impact stormwater runoff and diversion, I'm extremely interested in.
Is this an actual house?
That, to my knowledge, that is a outbuilding.
So there's no actual house on that property yet? Is that what you're saying?
No.
Okay.
So I have questions about utilities. I have questions about stormwater runoff. Right now, the stormwater runs to the north, that pond. My house is at the very top right-hand corner of the square.
This one right here.
3834 or
3830.
3830 is this one right here.
Right.
you are the neighbor?
This I don't know if this buyer or person that owns the property right now, I didn't see it advertised for sale. I don't know what kind of due diligence they did, but when I've owned the property that I reside at for less than 3 years. And when I did my due diligence back at that time, I saw the lot, I saw the pond, I saw the access, and at the time it was being used for hay farming. And up until December of this year, it had cattle on it. So, being that I'm assuming that I also come from a position that I don't understand if it's already zoned as RF1 and agriculture. Both of those zoning allow for a single family residence.
Well,
The only difference is that the setback would be different.
for agriculture, you need 5 acres. And what this is two different zonings on one tract that wasn't consolidated and rezoned when they deeded those two pieces of tract property together. So what they're trying to do tonight is get the one kind of zoning on it that fits. Since it doesn't exceed 5 acres, they need to go to the residential. And
So they submit for a building permit, is that why we're here? It didn't conform?
Correct.
And your concern is that they're gonna build something, or you don't want it to be RF1, or
Well, I'm concerned right now because the
drainage?
when you build, you affect that.
You can
Basically,
only build what the regulations of the zoning say, and most of that runoff, I presume, leads towards that pond anyway. I mean, just contours of the ground, probably put everything in there, and they can't exceed, nothing can leave their property more than what leaves naturally now. So,
well, and that, you said detention pond, and we think of that in planning as a specifically designed structure to detain water runoff from development of subdivision. And what this is an old farm pond. I think.
no, sir, that is definitely a detention pond. That has an overflow that runs through my property right now.
Right.
On the north side of my property, it runs north.
Well, you can see where it runs, yeah.
Yes.
But that is a
So that is a detention pond Right now, if that pond was not there, I
It's
would
a
have.
dammed up channel of water, that's what it is. And so the water, when it fills up, continues to run the way it always did. Doesn't necessarily mean it's detention for the land that's on.
How long has
It
that
diverts,
pond been?
it diverts it to the west. That pond fills up, it overflows, diverts to the west, and then it runs around my
The
house.
spillway.
I mean, whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, well, what I'm saying is, I think it's an old farm pond. When they build it in a water channel and build a spillway, and the water goes out where that spillway is. They could have built that anywhere along there. I assume they build it so it runs into the natural water channel. A single family residence isn't going to increase your runoff significantly enough to require a detention pond in and of itself.
So again, going back to it, you can see how it was zoned. If you got constructive notice, you can see how it's zoned.
Okay.
So to then come and we're talking about a permit that doesn't conform. So now we're trying to rezone something that when another owner had constructive notice of the property and the way it was.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just gonna go through just a little bit more on, this property is under 5 acres. And it's got 2 different zonings on it. That RF1 has been there, from what staff can tell, the zoning designation for many years, okay? But there was a piece of it to the bottom that's ag. Well, in ag, you have to have 5 acres. And RF1, you have to have 7,200 square feet for your lot area. You can't have 2 different zonings on one tract. They want to come in and get a building permit. They don't conform to the ag, and there's R1 all around there. It's all single family. RF1.
There's ag all the way to the south.
It may be used for agricultural purposes, but the zoning regulation, how that property can be developed, the ones to the west and your property is zoned RF1.
But everything to the south is ag.
Is ag. That's correct.
But they don't own that.
But they don't own that. They own their parcel. And so to get a building permit, they have to come into conformity with the zoning. So the majority of their property is zoned RF1 and they don't have 5 acres for ag property. You can have a lot more building space on ag property than you can in RF1. You can't cover more than 65% of your yard. You have to meet certain setback regulations. They're definitely gonna meet the front setback because they don't have the lot width to build in that little panhandle. They have to meet the
and they can't build, and they can't build on the pond.
And they can't build in the pond.
And then, so that's what I'm saying is that you can see how for an owner that neighbors that property think nobody's going to build right there. It would be almost, they would have to rezone it. They would have to conform to making sure that what usable that has for a single family property with a pond, the strip like you're talking about, right? That does, you can't build there.
That's the driveway.
From what I understand, they want to build in the area where that barn is. That's what they want to come in. They want to come in and get a single family building permit for this area where that.
So the barn is going to come down, or
it's up to them.
Yeah, they have to build in front of that barn because you can't have an accessory structure in front of your main dwelling in the RF.
That's the next thing I was going to.
Unless they want to come and ask for a variance.
They would go to the Board of Adjustment. If they decided, hey, I can't put anything right here in front of the barn, so I need to leave the barn and I want to build my house behind the barn. But I'm wondering, Julia worked and talked with the Mr. Padilla, and since he's here, maybe he could explain what his intentions are for the use of this.
Yeah, I don't, because I have no idea.
Yeah, Yeah, I totally
I,
understand.
I'm, I mean,
I
I'm,
get-
I'm trying to make sense
Figure
of,
out-
what I'm trying to say is like, I'm trying to make sense of it. It says RF1 and agriculture, both those allow single family homes.
Right,
So-
so they're rezoning the whole parcel. to
I
RF1.
understand that. I'm just trying to understand the purpose.
Yeah. I totally, that's why we're here, to
And the
explain
big thing
these
is, like she said, there's not enough of either one. That's
Right.
That's the problem. There's heat.
They want to build on a lot that they can't because it's not zoned properly. That's the whole story.
I totally understand it. That's why
Well, that's what they have, tell us what he's gonna build, and then if you have more quick comments.
all right.
Hi, my name is Charles Tice. I actually work for Morton Buildings. I'm not Mr. Padilla,
Sorry.
but that's okay. Thank you, Chairman and the board here. The idea is, currently on that, when I was approached by Ms. Padilla, she had, obviously, like I said, hadn't done her due diligence. I don't know. She just said, I have this piece of property now. The idea is, currently with the size of the property and setbacks that are needed, the barn is going to stay. As far as I have been told, we probably will have to get a variance because if in RF1 we can't be in front of, we're actually going to be probably 25 feet off of the south side of that pond with the structure, so it would be concomitant almost with that barn. Guessing probably 50 feet off of the east property line and 25 off of the south property line.
What's the square footage of the house, do you have any idea?
Aggregately, porches and all, probably close to 4,000.
The footprint?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And the height of that,
The peak of this is going to be not, probably not much more than 20 feet. It's a single story with a high pitch on it. A low profile home, though, yes.
It has to conform to the RF1 height requirement. Thank you.
Sir, do you have, Marcus, did you have anything else you wanna?
I just wanted to say again, I think that it's a real estate transaction where the land use for that specific lot is much more conducive to agriculture than it is RF1 based on the pond, the access, understanding utilities. So I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, because everything will fit in there. And the fact is, if they wanted to, they could come in and drain the pond, build right where it is. Square, they can't cover more than the lot than our ordinances allow, but I doubt the house and the barn would do that, so. Any comments? I think zoning at least needs to be consolidated. I'll make a motion that we approve the rezoning to our. One.
One second.
Motion second, all in favor, signify with the raised hand. Be unanimously approved.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 13 is discussion possible action on amendment to chapter 50 utilities.
Okay, so these last three items are actually kind of all work in unison with each other. Specifically, item 13, obviously I'll go down this, is for an amendment to chapter 150, removing ditching permit 150.21 to a more appropriate chapter within our ordinances, specifically into utility provisions, creating a new chapter 50.1 for ditching permits. That'll remove it from building regulations, which is predominantly owned by planning, to utility provisions, which is owned by streets and or the utilities department.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Any questions? Make a motion, we recommend approval of this ordinance change. second, all in favor, signify by raising hand. Unanimously approved.
What was that?
Well, you read all that, didn't you?
No, that's the easiest ever. Like, what just happened?
They took something off our plate. Yeah, you can have it. All you wanted that.
Okay, I'll just keep going then. Item 14, this is similar to the last one. This is removing pavement cutting from Chapter 150 and moving it into Chapter 93, which is more owned by streets. Again, same concept, remove it from ours and move it to somebody else.
On this one, did we change the bonding requirement?
We did not. Consulting with the other departments, left the ordinance the same, just changed it from one chapter to the other.
Okay. Any questions? I make a motion, we recommend approval of this ordinance change. All in favor, say first. I make a motion. A second, all in favor? Unanimously approved. And sorry about not giving you your cue earlier.
I was confused.
Discussion, possible action on amendments, chapter 150, building regulations, construction.
Okay, this one's the exciting one. So we came to you at the beginning of, or the end of last year, beginning of this year, noting that 150 was going to be amended so that we can be in line with the requirements of Oklahoma Uniform Building Code Commission. So in 2021, OUBCC adopted the 2018 for the IEBC, the IFGC, the IPC, the IBC, and the IFC, as well as the IMC. In 2022, they came back and adopted the 2018 version of the IRC and the NEC. What that means for us is that we were 3 years behind on what we need to adopt as the city. Currently, at the time of adoption by OUBCC, we were under the 2015 for all codes other than the NEC, which we were under the 2014. So given the adoption by OUBCC, it forces us to adopt these codes as well. Once we started looking at the ordinances to adopt these, we noticed that our Chapter 150 needed a significant rewrite or at least update. At that time, we looked at surrounding communities and adopted additional appendices, updated language, also looked at a general contractor provision, as well as a chapter that kind of gets confusing is the addressing and street names. So combined and cumulative, we did do the rewrite. Within your staff report there, you will see kind of a comparison between what we had and what the chapter layout was to what we proposed and what the amendments were that we created. I don't know if you gentlemen had a time to review the 150 that I sent out, but the amendments throughout weren't, it was really cleaning up the language other than those notes for the general contractor, which is a benefit to us because it will benefit our citizens that anybody who's doing work in the city will need to become registered with us in accordance with state statutes for bonding, as well as being able to protect our citizens in that way. And then demolition permits and everything that we were missing that we were kind of scraping by, and we didn't really have regulation to effectively administer. And I do have Tim, who's our resident expert on all codes. If you have any specific questions, I'd like to get him involved if you have any questions for him.
One first question is, since the state has adopted the newer codes, we're forced to adopt them also. Is that correct?
Yes, and I'm glad you brought that up. I will make a note that we looked at Prague. Their language essentially is written in a way, and it's reflected in ours now, that whenever OUBCC adopts their new version, the city automatically adopts that as well. Because it will be a requirement for us to adopt, say they go to the 2022, we'll have to do it anyways. So in effect, it makes it so that we don't have to come back for approval for something that we're going to have to get approved anyways.
I'll just make my general gripe. It seems to me that, like most governmental entities, the national codes just keep becoming more and more snarled
You can build a good house, but you can always build a better house.
or different.
That too.
But yes, we've got to do it anyway. I would note that I did not get all the way through it, but I sat up last night reading it, and sadly, I just downloaded it without converting it over to PDF so I could mark it up. And I thought, there's not going to be much. There are several sections that I did find that have wording problems in them, but nothing that I found that was monumental. It just reads hard or a wrong word. And as I thought about it, what I found wasn't enough to want to say, let's continue it and let me go through and mark it up and make myself happy. But there are a few, so
If it's wording, I think that we're more than amenable to receive those corrections and work those before.
we might work out before the city council.
Yes, sir.
If I get in the mood to read it in at night.
How often do they update? So I see on this first page, it was like 2018, or 2014, 2017, 2015, 2021, 2022. So I mean, how often are they updating? Are we gonna run into, let me ask this a different way. Are we gonna run into an issue where a developer or somebody has code issues because they update it while they're in the middle of finishing out the phases of their developments?
We wouldn't require the updates if they're mid build.
Okay. That's one of the biggest things. If we're changing it every year and somebody gets stuck in that transition, so I didn't know, do they get grandfathered in, or do we say, hey, we'll change it every 3 years if it changes?
They would be under whenever they submitted that permit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I read every word of it, said, my lord, we got a lot of them.
Well, I didn't know if it would, for a town the size of Newcastle, would it make more sense to, since they change it so often, would it, instead of saying, because I agree with you, we don't want to get to where we're 10 years behind, but where we say, instead of we're going to change it every time they do, every 3 years, we're going to review it and update to what the
We're required
newest
to
is.
adopt.
But we're required anyways. Okay.
Yes, that specific code the international codes we're required to update for OUBCC. But if there is an update, maybe we can talk about doing an informational item. Hey, OUBCC has adopted this, and then information item, the city is now moving to code X.
On a serious note, I was kidding about the permits, not really, but how do we come up with the list of what they need for permits? Because seriously, when I was reading through that, I thought, oh gosh, you almost need a permit for a water hose change. I mean, where do we get that list? Where does that come from?
Community comparison.
Where?
Community comparison.
Okay. And
Similar cities.
What cities are we comparing to?
So we'll hit the Tri-Cities, so Blanchard, Tuttle, Newcastle, and then we'll go to everyone's favorite of Norman, Moore, OKC, Midwest City. We'll the whole gambit of population sizes.
So we're adopting the code, but the prices for permits are our own?
Yes. Those were the only additions to that, where we did create the general contractor and then the demolition permit as well. Everything else remained the same, but as correction to the contractors, we did up the initial fee from 100 to 200 for contractors.
No, it's always been 200 for the initial fee. Yeah, after renewal.
The renewal, I apologize.
Nice, they have a little bit of input. I just want to recognize Kevin and Tim, and working with our legal staff, have worked very hard on making sure that we are adopting code uniformly with what the state has done, and have spent many hours on this to make it a little bit easier to comprehend, setting that appendix for a fee schedule aside, and making sure that we took out things that didn't apply to buildings. So I just wanted to give them a little.
I agree. You read it.
They worked.
I just read the updated table of contents and could tell how much work they did to break that stuff up out into its own chapter. I was like, yeah, that's.
Yeah, I'm impressed.
That's above my head.
Make a motion to recommend approval.
I will second.
Have a motion second, all in favor? That's more than I've gotten out of you at any meeting so far until now. Okay, discussion possible action on setting the date for a special meeting. I don't think we need one. Any new business? Old business? Anyone like to adjourn?
Thank you for the calendar, by the way. I know we said that every month, but, like, where's the calendar? So it is in back.
She was in the back every one.
Does she? Well, there you go. It's the third one. He's figured it out.
As
I mean,
when you
believe
say
me,
the packet,
believe me, y'all give us plenty to read. It takes a day. Even the guy in the corner is back to going, yeah, I think I want to agree with that.
Make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor? We are.